Janice Dean has spent decades being the calm voice in the storm, literally. But behind the composed delivery and familiar face, there's been a quieter storm brewing for years. One most viewers never saw coming. It started long before the cameras found her. Before Fox News, before the national audience, Janice Dean was grinding through early morning radio shifts in Canada, delivering forecasts to audiences who never even saw her face. Small stations. Pre-dawn starts. The kind of work that builds discipline without ever promising reward. Then, in 2004, everything changed. Fox News brought her to New York, placing her directly on one of the most watched morning programs in America, Fox and Friends. She wasn't there to fill airtime. She was interpreting real storm data, live satellite imagery, evacuation zones, information that people actually needed. And she showed up every single morning. But here's where things get interesting. She arrived right at the most catastrophic moment in Atlantic hurricane history. The mid-2000s produced storms that still live in collective memory. Charlie, Francis, Ivan, and Jean tore through 2004. Then came 2005, Katrina, Rita, and Wilma. 3 monster hurricanes in weeks. Janice Dean was on air for all of it, delivering live coverage while storms were still forming over open water. Viewers started noticing. They called her the weather machine. Then the weather queen. But while the audience was watching her rise, something inside her body was quietly beginning to fall apart. In 2005, the same year Katrina reshaped America, Janice Dean started feeling something wrong. A numbness creeping into her legs. A fatigue that sleep couldn't fix. Sensations that would vanish, then return without warning. She tried to rationalize it. The long hours, the live pressure, the relentless pace of morning television. But this wasn't exhaustion. What they found next, nobody expected. The diagnosis was multiple sclerosis, a chronic autoimmune disease where the body attacks its own nervous system, the same system responsible for coordination, stamina, and clarity. All the things a live television broadcaster needs most. And here's the brutal twist. There is no cure. Only management. Only trying to slow what cannot be stopped. She was advised to keep it private. So she did. Every morning, she walked onto set and delivered forecasts during some of the most intense storm coverage in television history, while privately managing a disease that could, without warning, alter her balance, her vision, her energy. The audience saw composure. Behind that, she was balancing neurological treatments around early call times and breaking weather cycles. That kind of discipline doesn't make headlines. But it should. And then, just when she seemed to have found a way to carry it all, the world shut down. March 2020. New York became the center of a global pandemic almost overnight. And inside that collapsing system of hospitals and nursing homes, Janice Dean's family was caught directly in the chaos. Her husband's parents, Mickey and Dean Newman, were living in separate New York care facilities when COVID swept through institutional settings. Within weeks of each other, both were gone. But for Dean, this wasn't just loss. It was a question that wouldn't let her go. Why? At the center of her grief was a March 25, 2020 directive from Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration, ordering nursing homes to accept patients discharged from hospitals, including those who had tested positive for COVID. The policy lasted 46 days. During those 46 days, infectious patients were placed into facilities housing the elderly and medically fragile. Thousands of families were about to learn what that meant the hardest way possible. Dean went public. She named the policy. She named the people. And when critics tried to dismiss her by calling her just a weather girl, she didn't flinch. She shot back, "I may be a weather woman, but I know when something stinks." That line traveled fast. And she was just getting started. She accused the administration of hiding the numbers. She called elderly deaths collateral damage in the political machine. She tweeted directly at Cuomo's office, again and again, "Why did you hide the numbers? Why were families lied to?" And then, in early 2021, a leaked conversation from inside the Cuomo administration confirmed what Dean had been saying for months. A senior aide admitted the state had delayed releasing nursing home death data because they feared it would be used against them politically. The Attorney General's report backed it up. Nursing home deaths had been undercounted by potentially thousands. All of this was happening while Cuomo's approval ratings sat above 70%. He was publishing a leadership book, receiving an Emmy, being praised on late-night television. Dean watched all of it and called it out directly. When the Emmy was announced, she wrote, "Maybe he can put it next to the photos of our dead loved ones." Supporters called it raw truth. Critics called it inflammatory. Nobody could ignore it. By mid-2021, the tide had turned completely. Federal investigators opened inquiries. State legislators launched formal reviews. The media outlets that had once celebrated Cuomo now led with words like concealment and accountability. In August 2021, Andrew Cuomo resigned as governor of New York. For Dean, it was a form of recognition, but not the kind that brings anyone back. Through all of it, she never stopped. Not the grief, not the advocacy, not the broadcasting, and not the fight with her own body. Multiple sclerosis doesn't pause for loss. It doesn't pause for breaking news. By the mid-2020s, she had begun taking periodic breaks from on-air work for health reasons, more open than ever about the neurological fatigue that most people still don't fully understand. She spoke about it plainly. Not for sympathy. For visibility. What Janice Dean's story reveals isn't just one person's hardship. It's what it looks like when someone refuses to let any of it, the diagnosis, the grief, the dismissal, define the limit of what they're willing to say or do. The storms she's covered on television have nothing on the one she's weathered quietly, and kept walking through anyway.